jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey!
Jingle bells, Batman smelt, Robin laid an egg. The Batmobile lost the wheel, and the Joker got away. Crashing through the roof in a one-horse open tree, busting out I go, laughing all the way.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Pantheon Plus. This is week 2 of our discussion on various Christmas specials. My name is Jerome Cuson. You can find me on Twitter at JeromeC1985. For now, anyway. My colleague, of course, is Brian. He is at Brian to Brain. You can follow us on Twitter at Hero Pantheon to give any feedback. Who knows how much longer we're going to be on Twitter, so we may need to make some changes for the new year, but we will definitely be thinking about that, amongst other things. Please leave a 4- or 5-star review to help people discover the show and the great work that we are all doing here at Enter the Real World. You can go check out our archive where we've discussed various superhero projects, all the movies, a number of trilogies, including Lord of the Rings. I'm sure that's a big deal for people these days. You can also check out Matt and Ben. They are discussing 1980s movies, and I know that Die Hard is going to be coming either very soon, if not already, and that is Christmas related. We are not going to engage in the discourse with a capital D on whether it's a Christmas movie or not, but you can listen to that episode regardless. Here today, we are going to be discussing 3 episodes. We will be discussing Season 1, Episode 38 of Batman the Animated Series. This was a late edition. We were originally going to discuss The Simpsons pilot that aired all the way back in 1989, but we felt with the recent passing of Kevin Conroy, we needed to go back into the superhero archives one more time and talk about Batman the Animated Series. So we're doing that with Christmas with the Joker. That is how we are starting. Later on in this podcast, we will be discussing Futurama Season 4, Episode 2, Tale of Two Santas, as well as South Park Season 8, Episode 14, Woodland Critter Christmas. Brian, we are going to start out with the lightest of the 3 episodes, if you can believe it. Just goes to show you how dark Futurama and South Park get. We are talking about Christmas with the Joker. The Joker is threatening Christmas, and this is the lightest of the 3 episodes.
Yeah, it is literally. Even though this show is all about, the dark, brooding Dark Knight, what's really cool about this episode is actually that it's all at night. Like, there's no daylight at all, I don't think, and it all takes place in this Christmas Eve night. And just the lighting just was so dark and it's a natural look for Christmas. I don't know what it is about Gotham City, but when it's covered in snow, it just has this natural Christmas feel to it. It's probably because of Batman Returns, but just all the visuals in this episode were just so visually great because, like, it's a contrast. You got the dark colors with Batman, and then the Jokers just have these bright red sweater. you know what I mean? Just a bright color palette for the Joker. In contrast to Batman, so you got that visual contrast, plus the Joker is just annoying the shit out of him all night. So it's a classic Joker episode as well. Mark Hamill having a lot of fun. Batman has not seen It's a Wonderful Life either, so it's a full circle tie-in. Here we go.
Absolutely, Brian. So we start off Dick Grayson. He just wants to watch It's a Wonderful Life, Brian. And I did not know that this was a part of this, but for the second consecutive week, we have a reference to It's a Wonderful Life. And I think that one of the best lines, I will reveal if it's the best line later, but Batman's response in saying that he hasn't seen it because he can't get past the title. That is A+ voice work from Kevin Conroy in that moment. And yeah, so Dick Grayson just wants to have a nice quiet Christmas. And I love that they go to the streets and they very clearly have this scene where this mugger looking guy seemingly grabs a purse from a woman and then he gives it back and they wish each other a Merry Christmas. This might be one of the funnier episodes of Batman the Animated Series I've ever seen, because there are some just absolutely brilliant pieces of humor here, both that, the It's a Wonderful Life joke, and a great gag that I'm going to mention a little bit later.
Even just him doing like the puppeteering stuff, I couldn't help but laugh because like it's so stupid because he's just using his hand. It's not even he didn't even bother to get a puppet. He just painted up his hand when he was on camera. So and then I love it every time. Like I don't know if it's a Batman trope or maybe just a superhero trope, but like somehow the villain takes over the cable networks. You know what I mean? In every channel that he took over every channel because they were just like thinking. Remember we talked about it earlier. It's a Wonderful Life. You know, it was on every channel back in the day. So they're clicking every channel, and it's just the Joker, just taking over the network, man. So that was pretty hilarious in itself. Yeah, a lot of jokes in this one, and I just like the fact that like Bullock is dressed like a baby, just like little things like that, and you know, it just and then you got Gordon just annoyed as hell, and he wants to basically just strangle the Joker at this point because he totally embarrassed him on live television. So, a lot of fun stuff going on, and then, well, I would say like yeah, the big gag at the end with all the stuff going on, and I know you want to talk about that, Jerome, but it just sets it up really well because this allows the Joker to have a lot of fun in this episode, even with that the Jack in the Box with the Joker at the cemetery just leading to a giant shootout. Just one clue after another. That's what I love about some of the Joker episodes, more so than the Riddler, because the Riddler has these really intricate riddles, but the Joker is just like he wants you to figure it out so easily, so he can have some more fun. So that's a lot of highlights in this episode, and a lot of great voice work from Mark Hamill and Cameron.
And I just want to say that the fact that this episode begins with the Joker singing the Batman version of Jingle Bells, I mean, it's funny because if we talked about The Simpsons, that episode actually opens up the same way. So it's just kind of funny how that works. But the Joker literally sings it, and he says the Joker ran away. And what happens? He runs away. He escapes via a Christmas tree. And what a great opening, Brian. Like, just playing into the humor of that situation. And I know that for you, this was also pretty great, too.
Yeah, because I don't know. I had this flashback to like my childhood and on the playground, and you had that same feeling too. Because like for some reason, when I watched this, I was like, "Oh my God, did the rhyme start in 1992?" But I remember it before that. So it's been going on since the '66 Batman. Apparently, this rhyme that the kids came up with, "Jingle Bells, Batman's Mills, Robin laid an egg." Everyone knows that, and I feel like everyone, even today, probably kids know it too. It's just one of those things that kind of like gets passes around the playground because it rhymes and it sticks out and the melody and everything. But it's just so funny the way they incorporated it because like I don't know, as a writer, I would not have thought of that. You know what I mean? Like incorporating something like that for the Joker, something like from a cultural standpoint of what goes on at the playground, which makes sense because you have a predominant kid audience, so the kids are going to identify with that. So I thought it was one of those brilliant kind of moves of like writing, because you know, little things like that is what kind of make a writer really kind of like a genius. I think it's just those little things like that, and so to incorporate the line, just brilliant stuff.
So I have to tell you, so there are a number of points when Batman and Robin are finding these boxes and they're opening them and like who knows what's going to be in the box. I have to tell you that at the end, the payoff might genuinely be one of the hardest might be the hardest I've laughed in quite some time. So Batman opens this box and it's a pie in the face. And I'm sorry, Brian, I never want to reach the age where a pie in the face is not funny. If that ever happens, then please just end my life right there because pies in the face are always funny. I don't know. Did you have Bozo in your area? Did you have Bozo the Clown or a Bozo the Clown?
No, but I did, you know, watch a lot of crazy '80s horror movies, and every time I see a pie to the face now, I think of Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And if you've seen
Fair
that
enough.
movie,
The
he
Three
gets thrown to
Stooges.
death, like pied to death, literally pied to death. It's great. You got to watch that movie.
Also, the Three Stooges had a number of pie fights, but I mean, Bozo the Clown was pretty famous for having it, and yeah, it's that it just made me laugh so hard. And the look on credit to the animators, the look on Batman's face after the pie comes off is just oh man, it's so good. I laughed so hard, and it's a really good guy because it's so unexpected. Because yes, Batman the Animated Series is a kid show, but they never leaned into the humor. Like if you watch, because I was actually watching a number of episodes because of the recent passing of Kevin Conroy, and yes, there are some light moments, but this episode is aggressively funny, and I really liked it. It was tremendous, and Just the animation as well, I really liked. Like all the credit always goes. I mean, the animation on this show is iconic. I think it's been adopted in other DC projects. Like the Superman animated series looks very similar to this, and even the Justice League is clearly based on about Batman and Robin. And like you even look at certain episodes of Harley Quinn, and it's very clearly a callback to Batman the animated series. But just the way the snow looked, like it felt very Christmassy within the context of Batman the animated series. So yeah, this episode just all the way around is really good. This is definitely, I wouldn't say this is like the best episode of Batman the animated series, but aside from it being a Christmas episode, this is top tier Batman the animated series.
Yeah, I agree. And it's usually, I don't know for me, but that dynamic between Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy, I don't know what it is, but because it was so unrecognizable to me as a kid that Mark Hamill was the voice of the Joker. And especially in this episode, I still can't believe that he's the Joker at times. You know what I mean? So he's really into the role and he's having a lot of fun. So credit to him. I would say he's probably the best performance in this episode, just because of the amount of dialogue that he had. And I thought the ending was really fun too, because he's got like giant nutcrackers like falling all over the place, and like he's in this warehouse. It feels like that kind of Batman 66 kind of feel, but like in a good way. Because with the Christmas theme, you can have a lot of fun with it, and they had a lot of visual fun with it as well. I still can't get over the fact that he dressed up Bullock as a baby. I know I mentioned it already, but just that visual, man, which is so funny, and that fits what the Joker is, making fun of Bullock like that. And was that Barbara Gordon that was tied up in the middle, or was that someone else?
I believe it was another police officer. I think the gimmick was that he captured 3 police officers. So, yeah, it's pretty fantastic, I would say. Yeah, just I very, very much liked that everything that was going on there. It's really, really good stuff.
Oh, and especially the train crash. I thought visually, I was like, holy shit, that looked good for 1992. So especially when they've HD digitized the footage nowadays, and it looks so much better on HBO Max. So that when it goes over the hill or over the mountain, that train just crashes and it looks so real and good. So credit to the animators on that as well.
So you mentioned best performance. Like I would love to give it to Kevin Conroy, but Mark Hamill in this episode is just, we start with him, we end with him, his singing and being his usual crazy self. And I mean, just the performance that he gives is really, really tremendous. And yeah, I mean, Kevin Conroy is great. And I'm sure in a lot of other episodes, we would give him like the award for best performance. But in this case, it's definitely Mark Hamill. And again, a top tier episode of Batman the Animated Series. So I would definitely, in terms of episode quality, we'll come back to the theme in a minute. I would give this an 8.5 because there is a lot of Christmas and it's a really good episode.
Yeah, they played a lot with the visuals too on the Christmas end, so I agree with that on the 8.5. In terms of best line, I mean, for me, it's got to be Robin telling Batman he's never seen a wonderful life, and just him like in shock because we just had that moment last week. On the podcast, so.
Yes.
So it's real life coming. I mean, I guess there's a certain amount of people that are like me that just never seen it, and then Batman included. So, but
well, Batman couldn't get past the title because he couldn't get past the idea of "It's a Wonderful Life."
So that's such a Batman thing to do. But then full circle, they got a copy of the film and they watch it at the end. And so
here's the thing to me. So Batman has all of this technology. He doesn't have the ability to record TV.
See, that's the thing in this alt universe. I'm assuming they don't have VCRs. It's like this kind of like United States that stood in like the 1930s, 40s, like architectural look. And kind of stayed with that instead of.
I mean, in terms of architecture, it's very clear that's what happened. But I mean, like I know Batman doesn't watch a lot of TV, but like he should want to watch the news, right? Like I would think he would like want to record the news.
Media is just so different. The media is just so different in that universe because if you remember the Grey Ghost episode, I don't even think that was like on VHS. He was just watching random reruns and. It looks like no TV has any VCR in the Batman animated universe.
But then at the end of that episode, they announced the Grey Ghost is on home video.
Really? So it's
yes,
it's weird, like how they pick and choose what elements of what decades they want to use in the show. So, especially the cars, like the same thing is it's like the cars, but it's timeless. That feel. So that's one of the about the Batman.
So yeah, I would say that I would agree with you on the best line. I mean, it's a really funny start. Let's talk about the theme. So is it non-existent? We do have a theme. Forgettable. Is it a bop? Is it Pantheon worthy? Brian, I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to say this is a Pantheon level score. It is so memorable. I mean, obviously heavily adapted from the 1989 Batman, but given how good that score is, like it's iconic. Like I think a lot of people still associate Batman with that theme, just like Kevin Conroy is the voice of Batman. So, in my opinion, this is a Pantheon worthy score.
Yeah, for sure. It's so iconic. Even like not even the opening theme, but even just the themes within this episode, like some great stuff, just great stuff all around because it just sounded so cinematic and it elevated the drama and the action. Like it does it in every episode. So it's just kind of this legendary soundtrack that is just like this perfect example of all other composers to kind of map their Batman scores out. Like Michael Giacchino, I'm sure, used this as a base too, not just, the Hans Zimmer score. So totally agree on that. And what was the other category? I'm sorry.
That's it. We're done. We have our theme song. We gave the best performance, and we gave a grade.
Oh well, I guess the lesson for me, the lesson is.
Oh yeah, we got our takeaway. We got our moral lesson.
Well, my lesson is like get with the Christmas spirit because obviously Batman is not really getting into the Christmas spirit, but Joker is, and he's totally into it. So by the end of it, Batman kind of joins in too.
The lesson is to join in the Christmas spirit because if Robin hadn't turned the TV on, the Joker would have gotten away with it.
Very, very true. Very, very true.
So yeah, I would say there really aren't a lot of tropes. I mean, is using the Nutcracker theme out of the context of the Nutcracker, is that a trope? Because I feel like it is definitely something in a lot of movies. Like they will use the Nutcracker theme to like, especially for comedies. Like I seem to recall they use that quite a bit. So I guess that's kind of a trope.
Yeah, that's definitely one of them for sure. But that's kind of like, free use, right? There are no copyrights on that anymore. So that's why you see it in every single like Christmas movie, comedy, and I guarantee you'll see it in the upcoming David Harbour Christmas Santa Kick-Ass movie. So, but a hard rock version, I'm sure.
He knows when you are sleeping.
He knows when you're on the can.
He'll hunt you down and blast your ass from here to Pakistan.
Oh. You better not breathe. You better not move.
You better off dead, I'm telling you, dude.
Santa Claus is gunning you down.
Yay! For sure. So let us transition into talking about Futurama. I think we've talked about Batman. We don't need to discuss our relationship, but let's talk about our relationship with Futurama. I think for me, this was always a show that I enjoyed, but I think it always got screwed because it aired on Sunday nights, and with football season, constant interruptions and erratic airings, and like we didn't have streaming at that point, so I think it was just very hard to keep track of, and no DVR space as well. So this is one of those shows that as it was coming out on DVD, I definitely would buy the seasons and really, really enjoyed them. And I kind of gave up during the Comedy Central run, but I recently, just this year, I actually watched all of the Comedy Central run, and it's a really good show. And I think the 10th season finale is extremely emotional, and obviously it is going to be returning for an 11th season on Hulu. So it will be coming back once again. But yeah, I have a very good relationship with this show and really like it. Not just in terms of being like a kind of a Simpsons spinoff because it has many of the same creators, but also because of its of kind of the unique things it does, just with the relationships of the characters and being in the future. And we'll talk about just how unique, because the tone of this Christmas episode is very different than ones you would see on The Simpsons.
Well, right off the bat, unfortunately, I guess I watched the wrong episode because I watched the first one. So I guess I'll cover the Xmas story, and you can cover the Tale of Two Santas, because either way we can cover them quick, because I just realized there's more than one episode just now, because I thought it was the original Xmas episode. So I'll cover the first one. Jerome will cover the second one. But really quick, my relationship with Futurama is great because I, growing up, loved this show. I always thought the first season took a while to like get into because it was all about Fry adapting, and Bender wasn't really the Bender that we would go on to know in like season 2 and 3, and Leela wasn't like a really set in stone kind of character either. But once season 2 happened, everything just started clicking. You know what I mean? And it felt like this was like a second coming of The Simpsons, and I've had people tell me that they enjoy this more than The Simpsons. Like if you compare episodes to episodes, and a lot of them make the argument that like if you watch every single Simpsons episode, you probably won't cry. But if you watch every single episode of Futurama, you'll probably cry a handful of times because they really get you with the emotional stuff with the Fry's dog, Fry's mom, which is in the recent run, Fry's brother, which is my personal favorite episode, Luck of the Fryrish. So it really they really get your heartstrings pulling. And the fact that they came back having this epic comeback just like Family Guy, just tremendous stuff. So I really love this show. And, for some reason, I thought it was just the one Santa episode. But Jerome, I guess we're going to double this up and cover them really quick, huh?
I guess so. So your episode should come first since it aired chronologically first.
Yeah, this is 99, season 2. And basically it's the introduction of, the psycho killer Santa that is voiced by John
Which
Goodman.
is very much a Christmas trope. It's very much like the idea of the killer Santa, especially in the 80s and 90s. That is a big time.
There was a horror movie, I think, and then a really famous Tales of the Crypt episode that did that as well with the killer Santa coming down the chimney. So that really kind of plays into that because I think he comes down the chimney as well for this one. But basically, they're telling Fry, like, don't go outside. It's Christmas Eve. And he's like, why not? I want to buy a present for Leela because he realizes both Fry and Leela are both kind of lonely on Christmas. So he wants to get her a present. Everyone's telling him, don't go out. Don't go out. And then they tell him the history of Santa, which I think was like 2800 AD, where Santa became kind of like a android robot that kind of became sentient. And then his like scale of determining whether people are good or bad kind of got fucked up. And everyone in his list just becomes bad for the minorest reasons of all. Like the smallest little thing you did wrong that year, he's going to kill you. So you got to stay inside, everybody. If you stay inside, you'll be safe, and you got to lock down and everything. There's even like people recommending that Fry buy some weapons on his way back, which I thought was hilarious, but he doesn't know because he doesn't know. He's just fresh out of the cryo chamber, and this is his first Christmas back since being unfrozen. So, everyone's telling him to go inside, so he goes inside, but he ends up, or he actually stays out, and Leela goes out to help him and get him back in because like, oh my God, I got to save Fry. He doesn't know. So they escape Santa. And basically, Zoidberg at the end of the episode pretty much saves the day, which kind of was so random but awesome, which ends up sending Santa shooting off into space and just almost exploding. But he does come back, obviously, for the next episode. But in terms of like the feeling and like the Christmas feeling of this episode is definitely like an 8, maybe even 8.5, because it's the idea of being lonely on Christmas, buying presents for someone else and not thinking of yourself. And then, well, at the same time, Bender's in the background, like pretty much doing like this poor gimmick, pretending that he's poor so he can get free alcohol from the local homeless shelter for robots. So you got that, him exploiting the homeless on Christmas, and then Bender, obviously, that's a lesson right there. Don't exploit the homeless on Christmas. Just all kinds of fun stuff. I would say the best, I mean, obviously in this episode, it's probably going to be the next episode as well, but John Goodman just steals the show. And he's just tremendous in this role as the killer Santa. And this episode in particular, I think my favorite line was actually by Conan O'Brien, because he mentions that he lost his legs, because everyone has heads in the Futurama world, but he lost his legs in the war of 2012. And I kept thinking like, oh shit, they had no context because they were probably just throwing out a random year. And 2012, man, I don't know if there was like a war in here, like the more popular war, but I'm sure there was a war somewhere in the world. So just kind of funny.
There's also the Tonight Show wars that he had to fight in 2009 and 10. So you could argue that itself also was a war.
He didn't lose his legs, but NBC lost a lot of money when he played people for like $3 million a pop. So yeah, he was in a war and he lost his legs, I guess. But
I mean, he probably lost his legs in the figurative sense.
Right, but that's kind of the way they set these episodes up when they have these celebrity cameos. They're either like speaking at a convention or talking about their past history and then making jokes about the fact they're just heads in jars. So
So, A Tale of Two Santas is one of the darkest episodes of Futurama ever. It is so dark that it originally didn't even air on Fox. That's how dark it is in terms of like a network sitcom. It is not as dark as the next episode we're talking about, but the basic concept is that yes, Santa is still a threat, but the Planet Express gang, before holding up for the night, decides they're going to go to Neptune and they are going to try to save Christmas. So they freeze Santa and they have the elves make some toys. They decide to have Bender play Santa. But of course, Brian, Bender playing Santa is a negative thing because he comes down the chimney and everybody thinks that Bender is trying to trick them or kill them or what have you. So Bender eventually gets arrested, sentenced to death. In order to prove that he is not the real Santa, Leela and Fry go back to Neptune and they unfreeze Santa. But Santa, of course, wants to straight up murder them. He comes back with them on the Planet Express ship. They do rescue Bender, but on that Christmas Eve night, Bender and Santa create all kinds of chaos, and that leaves the rest of the Planet Express gang. The episode ends. The first part of the ending is they are holed up alone, cold, and dark. And on the other hand, Santa tells Bender to never play Santa again or he will murder him. Like, he straight up says, I will kill you next year. And he tosses him out of his sleigh, and that is the way that the episode ends, Brian. So it's pretty dark. I would have given this episode an 8. So unfortunately, John Goodman was unavailable to play Santa in A Tale of Two Santas, so Billy West actually took over. And Billy West does a really, really good job. I don't know if it's as good as the John Goodman performance, but my best vocal performance is also Santa, except it is Billy West. Just some of the lines they give him are pretty fantastic. The best line from the episode, Brian, is, won't you join me in slaying tonight? That is the offer that he makes to Bender, and it's a pretty good one. So yeah, that is A Tale of Two Santas, and the Futurama theme song. It's not Pantheon worthy. It's a bop though.
It's borderline for me, but when you said that the fact that they didn't air this on network TV, that explains why I didn't watch it. Because I thought I've seen every single episode, but goddamn, I didn't even know about this one. So there you go, little history lesson for Brian right there. But yeah, it makes sense now because I watched every single Fox 11 of the Futurama plus the Comedy Central run. So there you go. But yeah, I'm sure he did a good job, but I think John Goodman he brings this ferocity to it that. Oh man, then in that Xmas episode, he was just so ferocious that it just sounded so incredible.
Yeah, it is pretty incredible. I will say that Futurama did 2 really, really good Christmas episodes, and it's pretty impressive to see. All right.
What special time and special day? It's Woodland Critter Christmas. Hell, Satan.
Let's talk about Woodland Critter Christmas. Brian, I watched South Park in the very first season it aired when I was 12, and I feel like that is probably the optimal age to have started it because it's a show I should not have been watching when I was 12 years old, and I think it's been very up and down. I think there's some really, really great episodes, and there are some episodes that are really, really terrible. So it's been an up and down show. I've definitely watched a fairly good percentage. I probably missed a few episodes here and there, but for the most part, I've seen almost every episode that has been produced, and even the specials that have been on Paramount. The movie South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut is on my list of 100 favorite movies of all time as well. So I have a deep relationship with South Park, even though, again, there have been some episodes that straight up are not good. But there's also some really, really good episodes. We could have talked about many of the Christmas episodes. There's Merry Christmas, Charles Manson. There's Mr. Hanky, the very first one that I think people probably most associate with the show. We could have talked about the one where Jesus sacrifices his life for Santa as well. But I really wanted to talk about Woodland Critter Christmas because it's pretty messed up, man. It's pretty messed up.
And it rhymed. It rhymed the whole way through, which I forgot about the original time I saw it. But For me, South Park, I started watching, I think the season before the movie came out, which would have been 98, so maybe season 2 or 3. Like, I remember the first episode I watched was the Barbara Streisand kaiju episode, the robot episode. That was one of the first ones I watched, and then I watched the movie with a bunch of my friends, and we were just in shock because we didn't know, like, you can do this in a movie. So then it kind of just brought, like, it expanded our knowledge of what we can do in terms of, like, talking shit on the playground, or talking like that, but with control, you know what I mean? Not going over the top, but it blew our minds, you know what I mean? That movie, like, still blows my mind today in terms of, like, the ability to have this, like, happy-go-lucky feel with the singing and the songs on some of them mixed with the vulgarity. Like, it's just so, it kind of, like, changed everything, it feels in terms of, like, even when it comes to, like, comedy music. Like, I feel like Jack Black kind of took that idea and ran with some of the Tenacious D songs in the earlier days, if you're fans of Jack Black and his music. So I feel like it really kind of influenced comedy, not just in, like, the movies and TV, but, like, even in music when it comes to comedy music. I mean, because, like, the idea of to have, like, these, like, these like the Blame Canada song, I feel, is like one of the most amazing, like, written musical songs of all time, just because it's so insulting and offensive, but so, like, it sounds so positive, like, you know what I mean? Like, it sounds like a good beat. So a lot of those songs from that movie kind of stick up to me to this day. And I started watching the season after that, and then all the way probably till 2008. I think Imagination Land was, like, one of the last episodes I saw when I was, like, really hooked on it. And then I kind of just drifted off to just different stuff. And then I would hear about South Park still being, and I'm like, dang, they're still on the air. Like, did they grow? Or, like, yeah, they didn't really grow too much. They grew some of the characters. So I kind of grew out of it, but I kind of get back into it sometimes. Like, everyone's telling me to watch the COVID specials and, like, all that kind of thing. But I kind of want to go back and watch Imagination Land again, but as a full movie, as it was originally was intended to be, not the 3 episodes that it was cut up into. But to me, Imagination Land was like a fun kind of, like, follow up to the South Park movie. So that's kind of my relationship with it. And the Woodland Critters episode really just is, like, so disturbing to me. Still watching it to this day. I think it's the rhyming that kind of, like, adds to the disturbing part of it. I don't know what it is, but, like, hearing these kind of, like, rhymes that are for children, but it's so dark and, like, haunting. I don't know, man. The fact that you got Satan just screwing animals, like, Jesus, like, Christ, and then you get Santa at the end, people.
You do have Santa. I think that part of what makes this episode work and why it's so dark is they really build up to it. Like, it's not immediately clear what's going on, because they basically have Stan run into these group of woodland critters, and, like, they give him these very goofy names like Barry the Bear and things of that nature. And, like, it takes 8 minutes to find out what's really going on. And the fact that they are so patient, I think that's what makes the episode work. And that's what I give them a ton of credit for, is the fact that they are so patient with it. And again, like, in a 22-minute episode, it's not that the first 8 minutes aren't funny, because clearly there's something off, but just when they flip that switch and the animals make it clear that they want to bore the Antichrist, and we go from them being woodland critters to having a blood orgy. They sacrifice the rabbit, and then they start having sex in blood. I mean, it goes from one extreme to the next, and it is so funny, and it is darkly disturbing. Like, I've showed this episode to people, and they've definitely had questions afterward. But we will be talking about more sincere Christmas episodes next week. But for me, just the way that this episode is executed, this is top tier South Park. Just like we talked about Christmas with the Joker being top tier Batman in the animated series, this is top tier South Park. This is one of the best episodes of the series, I would say. And the funny thing is that it is one of the best, so Cartman is the one who wrote a story. He is the one who wrote Woodland Critter Christmas. But Cartman, in reality, is not in this episode very much. So it's very funny to me that one of the best episodes technically features very little of Eric Cartman, but so much great rhyming, so much great music. I mean, the scene in the abortion clinic where they're showing the little lions. I mean, sadly, it's very present, that episode. And you could either argue it's aged well or not super well, depending on your perspective on things. But just the music and the songs and some of the looks on their faces and the payoff with Kyle getting AIDS and dying 2 weeks after. It's just quintessential South Park at its best / worst, again, depending on your point of view. But I just love how angry Santa is about everything. That's pretty great too.
Because it seems like this is an annual tradition to kill the Antichrist that is given birth by an animal. Oh my God, it's just so fucking crazy. And I guess the mountain lion is this designated like instrument of God that is supposed to kill the Antichrist every year. Just the fucking logic in this is so ridiculous and hilarious. It just gets me, man, and it's just so fucking. Oh my God. And then what I think really like makes me like giggle, like almost like a child, is like the stupid names that they came up with. They didn't come with like normal names like Mark or like Randy or Cindy. Like they came up with Squirrely the Squirrel and Barry the Bear, and it just goes on and on with every freaking animal. And it's like the stupidest name because they didn't even bother to think of a name. And like Deary the Deer, like come on. You like they just half-assed it, but then like other parts they didn't bother. But like something like with the names, they half-assed it because it just adds to the comedy. And it's like, yeah, why name these characters like regular names? Just name them Foxy the Fox or whatever. And yeah, when the narrator's doing the rhyming of all the names, I couldn't just I laughed through the whole thing because it was just so ridiculous and like just such a thing that a children's book would do. You know what I mean? And oh man, it's just like that contrast from going like that like a children's storybook feel to all of a sudden being like The Omen. You know what I mean? In the span of like 2 seconds. So I think that's what it is, man. Because this is one of the most memorable episodes for me, and I know for a lot of like my friends who still watch South Park, like that this is like the one, like a top 5 that sticks out because it's so disturbing. And then the fact that you got like killing the mama mountain lion just makes it worse, and then you see the 3 cubs and they're doing a recreation of Lion King, and
Man, when Stan
Stan's standing there, oh my God, he's like
when he says it's really good.
It was great, man, that reaction, and then getting Santa involved to fix everything, and he's shooting up the animals. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. Like
there's so many great lines too. Like when Rabbity says, "Yay, sacrifice me to the devil."
Just so wacky and disturbing, man. But like, if you put this on the Christmas scale, it's really not like on the Christmas scale either. It's like a 6 or a 5, because like all it really is just Santa and a manger. Those are the really 2 like tropey things that stick out. You could have just put this on like a random day in June, you know what I mean? And it would have been the annual killing of the Antichrist, but they specifically put it on Christmas to kind of make it this new kind of like modern tale of the Antichrist on Christmas. Oh man, just crazy stuff with the writing.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a 9 or 9.5 for me. It very much is attached to Christmas, even with the Antichrist, because you've got the manger, you've got Santa. So for me, this is like an all-timer. So Matt and Trey do a lot of the voices. So I think for this one, we kind of have to do best character. And for me, it's Barry the Bear. Barry the Bear's best moment is when he says, "Gee whiz, Santa, you're not going to kill me, are you?" And then Santa blows his head off. And just fantastic stuff. And I mean, I could have given it to any one of the animals for just the distinct characteristics. And yeah, it's really good. And you mentioned Imagination Land, and the Woodland Critters, they make their grand return in Imagination Land.
Yeah, I do remember that, and as well as like Jason Voorhees and a lot of random crazy shit that I was just kind of going crazy for during those 2 episodes, because I thought I was like so high that this was like making it up in my head at the time, because that's what it started to But Imagination Land is like one of those crazy like creative things that they've ever done, in my opinion. But my favorite character was Santa, just because of the way he's just so annoyed and pissed off at the end. Like, what did you do, Stan? Like I guess Santa had this set up for every year that this happens to prevent the Antichrist, and Stan broke the fucking chain. And then he had to resurrect the mountain lion to make sure it happens again next year. So just crazy stuff, man. And my favorite line is actually like the most simplest thing. It's Stan going, "God damn it," when he realizes that he has to help the woodland creatures, and he's just so annoyed that he's like involved in the plot at all. Like it just made me laugh more than anything, I think, because he was just so pissed off and annoyed that he was involved with this. So that's kind of my my picks right there. And for the Christmas scale, like I still got to put out a 6, but overall this is like a 9.5 out of 10 overall. But and of course the South Park theme, I think at this point it's become iconic to the point where it's Pantheon level, just because I think everyone knows
it's been around so long.
It's been around so long, and everyone knows going down to South Park here and meet some friends of mine, and that's like the most known line. So I would definitely put it on the Pantheon level for that.
I would say so. Another underrated moment is when Stan is like done with everything, and he sits down and you hear the Jeffersons theme. Also a very underrated comedy moment.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff, and then Kyle getting the abortion at the end was just so disturbing.
I mean, yeah, for a lot of reasons.
I mean, the fact that it was coming out of his ass, the fact that the porcupine thing was still alive, like a lot of craziness.
All right, so after discussing 3 episodes of animation, we're going to be doing something a little bit different for next week. We looked at classic sitcoms last week, so it's only fitting that we do some modern Christmas episodes for next week. So we are going to be doing, and I want to be clear so that we are both watching the right episodes. We will be watching the Office Christmas episode entitled Christmas Party Season 2, Episode 10. So that is one of the ones that we are going to be watching. We will also be watching an episode of Community that is a little bit. I would say it's a little bit controversial, just in terms of quality and what people think about it. Because we will be taking a look at Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas from Season 2, Episode 11, the Claymation episode. And Brian, I know you've been waiting for this. We will be talking about the Ted Lasso Christmas episode entitled Carol of the Bells.
Yeah, and I'll give the little background to it next week, because apparently there wasn't even a Christmas episode planned for Season 2 of Ted Lasso.
This is one of the 2. There were supposed to be 10 episodes. They added 2.
So this is a nice little bonus that I think kind of paid off. And now it makes me think about, every time I think about Ted Lasso and Christmas, I also think about the little girl and her bad breath. So we'll get to that next week. But yeah, and then Community, this might be my chance to finally get back on board. I saw the pilot when it debuted, and I wasn't a big fan of some of the characters, but apparently some of the characters grow, and you want to see them, get successful. So when I watched it, I did not want to see a bunch of those characters succeed. So I guess this will hopefully turn me around on that.
For sure. So for Brian, my name is Jerome. We will talk to you again next week.
So does Satan fuck all animals, or does he just have like a porcupine fetish?